Alright, com check complete. Hopefully stuff's working. And that should be muted. Good. That's off. This is off. Or will be off. Fan seems a little loud, but whoopity-doo. Brush washed out. That brush is dehardening. Let's make some sauce. How much sauce shall we make? Should make enough sauce to have some clay. And we'll have to judge that project because that may be done. Hey Don, we are going to continue work on the tutorial for the beach ball pumpkin. That is my primary goal, so I can get all the filming done on it and then turn it into a proper tutorial. I think we should make a 2-scoop batch, that way I don't have too much and I don't have too little either. Alright, 2.5 scoop. Incidentally, volume check eyes and all that stuff. Am I coming through all right? Cool. Looks like I am. Alright, and Scully Boy is dry up, so he only needs a tooth extension, maybe 2 teeth extensions. This came out a lot rougher than it should have. Yeah. Maybe we'll sand them for a little bit. Usually that stuff comes out much smoother. Oh well. Okay. To work. Pumpkin that rolled back that way. This means I might not need the strips, but we'll have to check the layers. Alright. Alright. Beach ball! I know I rolled you off, but I need you to roll back. This is why crabbers exist. Ooh. Thin. Not enough layers on the bottom. Or I should say the top. But I might forgo that because I'm really sure I 6-layered it. Hey, Sarah. You know, maybe the clay will just make it be fine. I don't think that putting more layers on there is going to help the situation. Alright. So you are back burner. That's nice. That can mean that we are just doing clay and faces today, which would be very, very comforting from a creativity and artistic-y sense. Oh my god, the spoon! You can barely even tell it's a spoon. Woo! Yeah, alright. Well then! Let's make some sauce. And before I even begin, I can tell that's going to need a lot more water. Oh, cha 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 cha. A lot of water. Oh. I heard that, what is it? It's not Irene, it's the I one is starting to look bad. Ida, yep. Let's just hope that Jay doesn't decide to make a pest of itself too. Well, hell. That's no good. I made too much sauce again. I know they definitely said it was going to be stronger. Side because it always sticks to the sides. Yeah. Too thick. Let's thin the mix. Not too much though. Yeah, that's good. Okay. Put on the foil to dry up. Oh. Okay. Hey, Chris, how's it going? It's a good spot to lurk. Nothing major needs doing. Alright, got sauce. So we're going to forego an extra layer of strips. Am I? No, damn it, I'm going to do it right. Because I can still clay this. With a fan on it, it's going to work. And I'll still be able to clay today, no matter what. Alright, let's get the... There we go. There's the filmer. Good. And it's all set. Brush. Brush seems a little hard at the ridges. It won't be a problem. Different. Alright. Strips. Good length. Tiny. Not bad. Those do great right around the equatorial section. Hey, Cookie! Things are not doing too bad. I and the cats are doing alright. Alright, let's start the filming. We're back down to finish up the paper strips. The bottom layer is pretty good. I'm just going to switch back to the top and throw a few more bits on, just because when I was checking the thickness, just by kind of flicking and feeling for both sound and how much give there was to the project. Like right here, if you can press in like that with relative ease and see a divot, you might want to go a little bit further. Whereas if you really can't cause a divot in your beach ball, then that's a good sign that that layering is pretty good. But I'm going to press on now, add a few more layers, and hopefully work on to some clay, get a face on this guy, and start having the fun part. Oh yeah, never going to stop streaming. I enjoy streaming. Honestly, the streaming makes it more fun just because not only are you doing your crafting, but you know, you have somebody to talk to as well. And even though I can't necessarily play music because YouTube, although I realized yesterday that I could play a song or two, I would just have to go back when it gets copyright claimed and mute it. Awesome! Yeah, paper mache clay takes a while to dry, especially if you've got it layered up. But you know that very well. I've always wished we had some sort of sci-fi timetable. You could just take the project, be like, how long do you want this to sit in a time warp for? 24 hours. Poof! And it's dry. That always happens with projects. You can make them super complicated, they take forever, but when they come out, oh my god. Gorgeous! Gorgeous, gorgeous. Well, I made a slight move today. I requested to become an academic integrated career and technical ed teacher, as opposed to continuing with the Pathways program at work. I don't know if they'll be able to grant that request, but I had a principal chat with me about it last night, and the more I thought about it, the more it just started to make my stresses and concerns vanish one by one. I wish I had some of your sunlight. I suppose I've got my porch. My porch is a freaking torch zone most of the time. But at the rate at which I stream and do projects, it's not always worth it to take things down there. I can just leave it up here where it's generally pretty warm during the summer anyway, and I've got the fan on it. You can send a picture if you go to Facebook, and I think we're Unhallowed Haunt, facebook.com/Unhallowed Haunt. And you can send a picture to that. And then I can also post it for everybody else to see. I am tolerably proficient. I'm not gonna lie, I've gotten a little bit lazy over the last couple years. Not deficiently lazy, I don't think. But I don't know. It's a complicated issue because I and my close coworker were chatting about the PowerPoints and guided notes and labs and whatnot we've been working on over the last God knows how many years now, and we posed the question: are we getting too reliant on these things? So. But the general consensus was the utility of them was simply too great to not have, because a lot of students who were missing days, and they enabled us to be like, all right, here's what you missed, go ahead. That is the nature of people. They always freak out. Can you imagine what life would be like if you only had to really worry about your own backyard? Rewind the clock before national news, national radio, global internet, and all you have to worry about is, hey, how are my crops coming in this year? How's my family doing? What's happening on the other side of the world? What's the other side of the world? Yes, it is the kind of group page for this thing, and it is Unhallowed Haunt. I'm pretty sure it's facebook.com/Unhallowed Haunt. And I'm also pretty sure that if you look up any of my videos from a playlist, like the witch bottles, the pumpkin tutorials that are done and finalized, there should be a link there. I'm sitting in my new comfier chair, which is very nice. My little incense stick is burning in the background. It's a nice, relaxing summer Friday. One of the last summer Fridays. Okay, so www.facebook.com/Unhallowed Haunt. There it is. Going over the top extensively. Yeah, but not just yet. Whew. You know, that's what I should do, though. Now that I was just thinking about it, I should take everyone's submissions over a full year, who put their own stuff up, and maybe on like, you know, on New Year's Eve, do and this is what everybody else has made from this year. 2021 pumpkins. Hey, Ross. That'd be a way for everybody to see their stuff on the channel and check out all the stuff without having to log into any other ancillary site. I think that could be pretty cool. Show off the talents, build the community. Wouldn't take long to do. Throw up a little cool, creepy music. Or just throw out Night on Bald Mountain. I do not sell my art, Kuka. Or Coca. It takes too long to get it done. The rates I'd have to charge for it would be stupid. That's why I make tutorials. Ah, I got you, Stephen. If I had somebody who was really like, oh my god, I love you as an artist, money is no object, I'm a friggin' brain surgeon, I might be like, okay. What do you want? That way I wouldn't feel bad, like, okay, that's 3 hours of layering, 2 hours of paper clay, hour and a half of painting. I usually use just a standard acrylic, and then you seal everything up with spar varnish. I also throw on sometimes a layer of dry lock for the undercoat. I think, can't really see it right now, and I can't adjust the thing because I'm filming my tutorial, but behind this is a pumpkin that's in its almost completed stages, but it's got a layer of dry lock on it. Makes it a nice white base color. Spar urethane protects from ultraviolets very well for having the pumpkins outside. And I don't keep mine outside over the entirety of October, but I know some folks who do. And the spar varnish is essential to make sure the UV doesn't destroy your paint. I throw spar varnish on all my tombstones for that purpose. Otherwise, things will tend to sun bleach, fade, and not be the color you thought it was. I once worked a security job, and for the suggestions to make things better contest, I won it, and I won a little lava lamp, which was blue with sparklies, and I put it in my window. And then the sun got to the fluid, and before too long it was brown with sparklies, and that was a lot less cool. I have never really used a cardboard mostly because of the curving nature of the project. If I had something more angular, then I would not mind at all using, say, the kind of cardboard that you get in like a cereal box. That would make a very good, very strong layering, so long as things were completely angular. But with the fact that the pumpkins tend to be spherical in nature, it lends to crumpling, bending. Then your layers don't laminate properly, and you lose a ton of strength. You have a lot of air pockets. Ooh, pardon. And you're just asking for trouble. Because when I've done this with students in the past, that has been one of the big problems. Students layer too fast. They layer slipshod. Not all students, obviously, but the ones in a hurry. And so consequently, they have lots of air pockets, and their project is incredibly crumply and crumbly. Alright. Well, in that case, it's just, nope, I haven't. I can definitely imagine for the flats. Like, if I wanted to do all the flat spots of the tombstone, I would definitely do that with a cardboard laminate, and then I would just use the paper clay to handle the curves. Oh, so you're just using it for paper clay. Gotcha. Gotcha. Yes, and there is a very, very common haunter's trick out there called monster mud, which is a 50-50 mix of drywall joint compound and outdoor or whatever latex paint, which makes an incredibly weather-resistant material. Monster mud is excellent for coating things and also making things which have no business being solid, like fabric, solid. This. Yep, that's a layer because it's still a little moist. Oh. So let's go over the top a few times. Point that towards the camera. This way I'll know I'm not skipping any steps for proper tutorial. If you're teaching it, teach it right. Okay, so using cardboard pulp. Gotcha. Monster mud would probably cake over the crack, because it is something of a filler. Though what you very easily could do is, if you've got a crack you like, throw on your layer of monster mud, and then just like when I do my smoothing, take a brush and smooth it down. And if you've got any cracks, you'll sweep the excess monster mud out of the crack, and ideally it'll still be there, though in a reduced form, but you'll have the monster mud coating. I mean, pulped cardboard, realistically, is just the same thing as the cellulose insulation. It's just cellulose fibers all shredded and spreaded. Because realistically, the name of this whole game is cellulose bonding. Paper loves to stick to paper. Sugars love to stick to sugars. Dehydration synthesis, as the chemical reaction goes. This was the big spot. Awesome. I think I'll just use up the strips I've got, because I think this extra layer here will handle any of the weakness that I was perceiving in my initial tap around. And then we'll turn the rest of this into clay. A little bit of sauce left over for smoothing. We'll work on the skull mad ball, and then we'll work on the crazy pumpkin. And if we're lucky, there may be a bit left over to start the face on this guy, provided the fan dries up these layers. Since they're all external, it'll be pretty swift in terms of drying. Or should be pretty swift. Looks like the Facebook chat widget is still screwed up. It's giving me a gray screen. I may have to email XSplit about that. Ideally, my buddy Don is coming down tonight. And tomorrow we'll be working tombstones like we planned on last week. And better yet, I went to the other campus and I got all my foam carving stuff. So it's all here. Lovely. That will be one of the regrets if I get moved to the career in tech ed science. I won't get to do any artistic stuff with my students, but the number of other stressors that become resolved are just too great not to pursue that course. I don't know, Ross. I'd like to do one. The difficulties I have with tombstone tutorials are, number one, I've got the hot wire foam factory tools, and I will never do another tombstone without them, quite frankly. They are so useful. You can also use like a soldering iron, but it's not as precise a tool. Hey KO, how we doing? Because my last one I did the Dremel with. The other thing with tombstones is there is a gal out there whose name unfortunately I can't remember, but she makes beautiful tombstones and already has a tutorial out there which is excellent. I mean, she makes like themed tombstones, really good stuff. So I'm not necessarily worried I'd be covering a redundant area, because if you're having fun with it, you're having fun with it, so that's all win-win. But I'd be covering a redundant area. What I think I might do, though, is I've been thinking more along general foam carving for non-tombstone props. Things like the witch stone and other just haunted protrusions to the yard, because I like the tombstones, but I think we can get creepier. I think we can go to something that's sort of internally lit. I don't want to say megalith, because that conjures images of a, a trilithon or something like that, but just a larger, crazier, kookier, more eldritch decoration. I have thoughts in my head for those, and those might be worth doing a tutorial on. Yep, Scary Lady Videos, she's the one. Yep, her tombstones are glorious. Absolutely glorious. That is the lady. And if you're interested in tombstones and you haven't checked her out, then you absolutely should. She is a artiste virtuoso in the field of tombstones. Makes beautiful, beautiful stuff. That sounded like a furball is coming to visit. Hey, cat. Is that Sam? Sam? Good boy. Let's see if he comes up to me on TV. And almost out of strips, which is excellent. And I know from my count, that'll mean there's a minimum of 5 layers on top. Nice! I'm looking forward to doing face on this guy. Even if it's going to be kind of a basic face for universal accessibility. Maybe I'll do a sculpting video at some point. See if I can give people some inspiration, be a bit more fancy than the raccoon pumpkins where you just build up around the eyes, build up around the nose. Sam! Meow! Come here, fuzzball. He probably just tried to play with his mom, and she did her usual hiss, hiss, go away. And he's a little, meow, nobody wants to play with me. Which he often does. Alright, here's all my strips. Cool. So now we'll do for the camera. And kill that, because I probably won't be working with it for a little bit. And shut that down while it dries. And we need to turn this into some clay. so first things first, let's give it a remix because it's been long enough for all the heavier bits to fall to the bottom. Side, another scrape. Is a spare scissors. I can go away. Limit the amount of garbage in the craft area. That. Yep. On that side of the thing, so I can pour this more easily. Some more joint compound. Chisel off this spoon. I'm not going to do it huge right now, but let's see if we can at least break through to the underlayer. Alright, answer to that is no. No, we can't. Not within a reasonable time span. About 2 scoops of Raisin Bran left in this thing. That's hard. That's not hard enough to not get broken down. Can we get any more? Is there a block being held on to? yeah, that was totally worth it. Oh boy. I'm going to mix up some clay. I'm going to mute while I do it so you guys don't have to listen to the fury of the mixer, because it is a loud one. Not the microphone. No, that's the camera. One of the sources is the microphone. Yes. Go on mute. Alright, I should be back. That is one of the best investments I've made. Yeah, Stevenson, I mute when I make clay on this thing because it's a loud unit. Such an excellent investment. I've seen folks who have used cement mixers and all that. I myself used a drill for the longest time, and still would in a pinch, absolutely. But this thing has really just small, single batch, easy to make. 50% mache sauce, 50% drywall joint compound, and then as much cellulose foam fluff as it takes to make it awesome. Alright, so you are drying. This flour can go somewhere else. Glue can go somewhere else. I can light another incense stick because it's pleasant and smells nice. I think I'll work on the Mad Ball first, Crazy Pumpkin second, and then hopefully that'll be dry enough to get some work done. Lovely. That in a clear path to the fan. That's somewhere out of the way. Let's work on it. Somewhere out of the way, I meant right in the path of my arm. Okay. Still lit. Yeah, you can't go wrong with it. Excellent material. Alright, so he's going to come out with these two teeth further. I've got a crack in there, which is ridiculously easy to seal up. And we might end up resculpting the nose just a hair, but we'll see. I relocated my model skull. Bummer. Yep, I really ought to sauce this surface before I tack on some fresh stuff. Just increase the adhesion. Alright, put a hollow in there for the tooth to sit. Cover up the previous hollows. At least one perk of having some time between filming is that I know all that internal intervening clay is dry. Sauce more than anything else. I could brush it, but I think I'm going to start by brushing it. Joining mark in there. It won't be visible in the late game. It's fine. Also look at those cheekbone ridges. I might want to extend those out a bit too. You didn't. All we did was just shift projects. Whipped up a batch of paper clay. I am waiting for my other one to dry before I attempt to throw a face on it. So, yeah, I didn't miss much. Just gotta fill in these divots. Fill in the old divots, make up the new divots. Okay. Start with a brush on. Nobody's going to see the bottom of these teeth unless they really pick up this pumpkin for a 360. So we've got to join it well, but we don't have to Rembrandt it. I can appreciate that. I've always found that it is a bit clumpy, but the time it saves in blending is worth it. I'll work in a slightly crummier media, so I'm not like, all right, it's time to do caper clay stuff. I'll be next to the blender for the next 4 hours. Purely a matter of efficacy and preference. Nothing wrong with either way. Alright, so tooth divots. This one fractured a little bit. Actually, I'm just going to treat that as a gap that I'll patch after it's dry, because that'll be a lot easier. And then we'll have teeth coming down from here and teeth coming up from here. And a nice wide tooth gap broken look. Look at cheekbones. This one in particular is not pronounced enough for my liking. Coat on top of it. I used to know all the names of all the bones of a skull. That knowledge has gone out of my head. Yeah, locked up there. I forget if that was my first run through college or my second run through college. I also like how that's got a little bit of a down turn on the cheekbone. Let's do the same thing on the other side. Don't need the back built up as much, but definitely the fore. see if you can give me a little bit more on the base for that nice downturn skull angle. Maybe not. See what happens in the sauce phase. Pretty bad joining line there. Alright, not bad. Not bad. I'll take it. Tiny crack here. Just drop some stuff in here. That's okay. Patch out that crack. Smoothing. Bad, okay. And next. Is that a mold splotch? No, that's plastic. No, mold's not really a big deal when it's dry, but I do not like to bury it in there. Let's give you a little bit more of a bony smear. Bit. Let's see how it looks when it's sauced. symmetricity, but there's got to be some to be. Not locked in the weirdness look effect. That's not bad. I need to add a little bit back here as well. And then the skull portion should at least be pretty well shaped. See, it should be smooth for painting purposes. Do I like it? Not hugely. I think it looks a little bit too much like a bunny ear, but it will add a hyper exaggeration to the face, and that is necessary. Close enough. Yep, they are a bit bunny-eared, but it distorts the face. What else can we work on with him? Think about how I want to connect this jawline. I do want to come out here more. Let's see here. Favorite one I've made. Probably the one that got turned into my big scarecrow looking guy. Otherwise, that boy right here in the corner has a nice creepy look to him. My other ones are, of course, my other ones, I love them. The downside is, as you do with any art project, the more you move into a style that you think is slightly better, the more all your earlier work kind of seems more like a prototype. And there will always be a special place in my heart for the first pumpkin I ever made. That's good old Chompy, who has been in every single display that I've had the pumpkins for. Because he was the first. Okay, so... now on a human, there would be the gap here, and this would come around. There would be a jawbone link. I'm not going to get too fancy with that. I'll take this other one out a little bit to match it, sort of. Hasn't ever been a pumpkin that I didn't enjoy. I mean, fundamentally, if you're ever doing this project and you don't like it, stop. This is a hobby. You don't have to do a hobby if it doesn't make you happy. The whole point of a hobby is to make you happy. If it doesn't, don't do it. Don't do it. The most fun was definitely the first one, just because you're working on it, you don't know how it's going to come out, and then you finish up, or at least you get to a point where you're like, I can't make this any better without spending stupid amounts of time on it, and you look at what you've accomplished and you go, oh wow, that's so cool! And the whole way through, at least for that first pumpkin, there wasn't any point where I was like, I don't know how this is going to work. Oh my god, I'm so worried about this. It was just entirely a matter of, all right, let's do this like the guy said, then this like the guy said, and this, then this, then this. How's that? Oh my god, it looks great. It was just fun the whole way through. Yeah, there have been a few pumpkins. I don't know. If you ever, or if I ever get the, I need to do this, it should, if at any point it's a chore, then you're asking for a bad product. I don't really think I've ever had a pumpkin like that. No pumpkin has ever been a chore. They've all always been pretty fun. Maybe like the last of the garbage bag pumpkins, because I was moving out of my old apartment at the time, and it's just like, oh, more space for stuff. That is taken up by pumpkin junk, or I get project guilt. Yeah, from time to time I get project guilt. You haven't worked on that in weeks. I know, I just don't wanna. Why don't you wanna? That makes it problematic. I think my favorite one along those lines would be the witch bottles. Just because the inner form is already made for you. There really wasn't any... See, it was witch orb first, and then witch bottle. But the witch bottle was just so, I don't have to think about an internal form. It's all made. All I have to do is make some sauce, get some cotton, and flack it on there, and it just looks great. It's like from start to finish, and it's done. So yeah, those are probably some of the most fun projects, hands down, across the board. Alright, this boy's gotta dry. Which means that crazy pumpkin's gonna come to the forefront. Careful with his balance. Make sure he's not gonna get knocked over. Wait. There we go. Alright, turn over to the crazy boy for a little bit. And then we'll see if there's, number one, well, there'll be plenty of clay left because I can make the rest of that into a batch. Other stuff. Let's get him ready to throw some clay on. Oh, pardon me. It's a really good batch of clay too. Just need a layering coat here, so this will be pretty easy. I wish this was out of the way so I could see the chat a bit easier. There we go. Absolutely. Yep. If you got yourself a Dremel and carved into it, you could easily engrave these guys. You just have to watch out for your depth, because obviously you go too deep into it and you're going to be breaking through your internal layers. We ought to try a glyph pumpkin at some point. wouldn't be too hard to do. That wouldn't be hard to do at all. Just cover it with crazy spell runes and put a layer of black light responsive paint inside those, or some of that metallic powder material. That would work great. It would work great. It would look great. Be fun to do. Just need yourself a micro library of esoteric symbols, which you can rob from the internet. Speaking of the internet, it is noonish. I should see if anyone has had any decision breakthroughs on my requesty westies. Oh, there has been a phone call. When was this? Or is this the one from last night? Which is somehow just now coming onto my phone. Yeah, 6:06 p.m. Mail. Staff meeting. Tuesday. Okay. So, nope, no news. An Anubis would be kind of fun. The problem you'd have to worry about with that on a pumpkin is the projection of the nose. Like if you had a nose projecting out to here, this whole thing is going to want to roll forward. The Anubis figure doesn't also quite fit into my haunts theme, but there's again lots of stuff that could be done. We'll see. We'll see. I definitely would love to do the idea of a glyph pumpkin. Absolutely. And depending on the glyphs, you might even be able to carve it through and have them glow from the outside. Particularly if you're using spirals and anything that doesn't leave a cutout area. Which, it's easy to make up glyphs that have that motif. Not problematic at all. If you're going for glowing ones, I know we're going to try for some glowing tombstones where the words are lit up, similar to the witch stones, or witch stone that I've made in the past. One of this weekend's projects could be to finish the witch stone. It's only been years and years and years. That was the first great nope of the project fall-off time in the distant past. out just fine once clay is added to it. Yeah, I would imagine actually if I was going to counterweight that, I would do it with like granular pebbles, like gravel. That'd be pretty easy to do. You could also attach like a sandbag in there. For the sole reason that the density of that material is a lot better than the density of paper clay. And if you ever make a big rock out of paper clay, then the inside of it will pretty much next to never dry. So if you're ever counterbalancing a project, counterbalance it with some sort of stone or pebble that you'll never have to worry about going bad or cracking open and releasing mold spores everywhere because it never dried. Oh boy. For a project like that, I would also just consider making a flat out Anubis type critter, or anything that accompanied the glyph motif well. You could, yeah. You just have to do the similar concept of let your thin layer dry, then add another layer. But that could absolutely work, and then the thing would be incorporated into your project a bit more heavily. There's nothing wrong with that. I'd be more tempted to mix sand into it. I think you would get bonding around the particles a little bit better. Realistically, you could also just take a rock and paper clay around it. Slap it on and then put paper clay on top of it, bond it to the side. Just integrate the whole muffin thing. So we got to put the rest of the pumpkin striations onto the skull. And we'll have to look at how we balance that one, because he won't stand straight up. Should probably start pondering what kind of face I'm going to put onto the demo pumpkin. I know I said I was going to make it basic, and I still am, but what kind of basic? I bet our big meeting goes over what's going on for COVID this year. Our policies for it. Hopefully by the time we're done with this guy, he will have his full outer layer and be awaiting the fun sculpt. So I'll putting a paper clay layer on the outside any day over doing newspaper layering, but it's still not very exciting. Tonight, get some pizza with my buddy and talk about the Halloween This chair is a lot better. You will always get better strange shapes with the trash pumpkin, the trash bag pumpkin. I haven't really considered that quite so much, just because in my mind at present, if I wanted, say, a more oblong gourd-like shape, I would take this guy here, I'd make the beach ball pumpkin, then I would take some rolled up, probably wetted down paper and add it to a section I want to bulk out, let it dry, and let it just be bulk. So I would take a beach ball and I would do any kind of texturing or rumply-dumply weird shapes with another medium, because that would still give me the smooth internal. Because the great problem with the trash bag pumpkin that you try to escape with the beach ball or any kind of smooth ball is the internal rumbly bumply, which precludes painting, waterproofing, and all that stuff. So I would definitely go that route for odd shapes. And some folks have those really cool kind of upright gourds that they've incorporated into their shapes. I want to say that Unhinged Designs does it quite a bit, and from what I've seen, Wicked Vine Designs also has some very cool, I don't want to say gourd-like designs, because her stuff is really just, it's super solid. But she doesn't always follow the spherical motif. That means I probably ought to add some weight here. Let's just slap a big old section. Yeah. So in short, I'd modify a beach ball before I hybridized. Let's not throw that tooth on there just yet. Wow. We're out of clay. Ooh, pardon. We're out of this batch of clay. I think what we'll do is just prep this for Good stuff, Michelle. Thanks for hanging out with us. Happy to be around to make your time a little better. Hopefully I will continue to be on for quite a bit next week as well. At the very least until I get my tutorial completed. Yep. I almost think I'd like to make a clay that's a bit more watered down for the smoothing and integrating. I've got a bunch of magic sponges downstairs that might not do a bad job of really giving it a smooth surface, because the brush strokes that are left over with the paintbrush method can sometimes come up as visible. That's not necessarily a bad thing, but can we do better? Yes, we can! Smooth down those joining lines. No matter what, it always looks a lot better with the smoothing than just slapped on paper clay. Plus you get a product which is very, very much like clay slip. If you're peeling the top like this. Cool. Alright. And that one's good for a little I worked on it flag. careful in our positioning now. Screw that. That's why I have this giant craft room. I have a large shelf up here to put drying projects. Oof. There you go. A little weak in there still. No, there's nothing to be saved in putting more time into it. Oh, so. Let's think about a face for this guy. Alright, lean slightly that way. So we can either face here, so it tilts up, or I like face here. It's a ball. It doesn't matter where the face goes. It's fine. Everything's fine. Face is going here. Alright. What kind of face? Basic face. Triangle eyes. We're gonna do raspberry eyes. Nose. A nice broken tooth mouth. Should do great. But what kind of eyes? Can we hybridize the eyes? Yes, yes we can. We have enough room. Yeah, there we go. Needs to go higher. I should be filming this on the camera, but not. Let's start doing that before too much becomes lost footage. So I got a little carried away. I was all set with the layers, and I immediately started scribbling a face because it's so much fun. And then I realized that I hadn't really turned the camera on, so it's okay. I didn't get that far. Right, yeah, face. So once you have your layers all set, then you're gonna just scribble your face on. I like to go with a pencil first, and then once I've got my design in good shape, fill it out with a Sharpie. So back to it with it all filmed. Hey, Dragons Designs. How we doing? Bigger nose is better nose. I hear ya. I absolutely hear ya. Alright, let's make a nice big broken tooth on this once I resharpen this pencil. Hey GW! Excellent! Welcome to the channel! This is one of the the live streams that occur between tutorials. I am filming a tutorial, yet still want to be sociable. And right now we're working on the pumpkin that's going to become the beach ball tutorial one. So let's get a nice big tooth. I hear you there. It's one of the main reasons I decided to kick up live streams instead of just having the good old charming tutorials. They are excellent, they are wonderful, they are wonderful, but it's just you recording, which is sometimes not always as fun as having people to gab with. Hello, Internet. Hello, movie house. It's all good. As long as we're all having fun. That's the key. wasn't fun, I wouldn't be crafting. I'd be sitting around with my head shoved in an Xbox or something like that. Bad. She's sufficiently smiley over here. Wow, that pencil sharpening really did not do its thing. Should have given myself a bigger lead. That's fine. Good. Thank you. This one is going to be extremely similar in shape. I'm going to make some slightly hooded eyes. And that'll be his difference. His other difference is going to be these deep cut teeth. So I'm starting to believe that deep tooth gaps really secure some of the horror of a face. Alright. That's a face only a mama could love. And I love it. With your happy, wonderful, wonderful face on there, it is time to begin the more fun stage of this, which involves getting your paper clay pasted onto our pumpkin. And I'm going to whip up a batch of paper clay, which I assume I will be talking about at some point here, about how I used to do it and how I do it now. But otherwise, I'm going to whip up a batch and get started on this boy. Okay. Cover the lens. Yeah, good. Alright, let's make some more clay. This will not be a big batch because I don't have that much left, though. This could be watered down a bit. Not a lot. which in a way is good. Just means I'm going to use up pretty much the last of my drywall joint compound on it. Save a little bit for smoothing. Yeah, not that much for smoothing. Whew. The last joint compound. Well, maybe not the last. There's not that much sauce in there. Yeah, it's not enough. Is that 50-50? Bong. The immortal words of Arnold Palmer, close enough. Hey, Ella. That requires a lot of tiny painting. Tiny painting. That's what I got the 3D printer for. So I wouldn't have to go nuts on that stuff. Alright, I'm going to mute for a little bit because this thing is going to get noisy while it mixes up the paper clay. So if you can't hear me, that is why. Okay, that didn't make a lot, but wasn't supposed to make a lot because I didn't have that much sauce. Excellent. If you're doing that, take a look at a gal by the name of Ultimate, well, at least on YouTube, she's Ultimate Paper Mache. Name is Joni. She makes a very high detail paper clay that holds a lot finer shapes than mine does. So have a look at her, like Ultimate Paper Clay recipe. Because this stuff's good, but it's lumpy. Whereas her stuff is very, very fine. She uses toilet paper, a little bit more drywall joint compound than I do. And she also uses boiled linseed oil, which it will make your stuff very resistant, but it will take it forever and a half to dry. Just FYI. Yeah, Joni's amazing. Absolutely amazing. Alright, time to film again. Alright, paper clay. It's amazing, it's incredible, it's super fun to use. And now it's time to apply it to the pumpkin. What we want to do is ideally just start by getting yourself an outside layer. It's going to be about maybe 1/4 of an inch, 4 millimeters thick, and we just want it to go everywhere. I like to start on the face when I am kicking off with this opening layer, just because it makes my face come out, and I've been working on layering for so bloody long, I'm tired of seeing strips. I want to see something that reflects my finished product. So I'm going to start on the face. I'm going to go around everywhere that is going to be pumpkin, and ideally towards the end we're going to give this whole thing a quick outer layer of paper clay. This stuff hardens incredibly, incredibly well, and I will have a link for the description and probably a little mention of what I do now as opposed to what I did in the past for making paper clay. But I'm going to just take some time now and go around and start making my face come out. Alright. And now the video will be on. Fast forward while I do this, so we can chat and have fun at the same time until I talk about paper clay smoothing. I almost forgot. Oof. Save yourself some sauce nearby, because afterwards, once we get our stuff on, we're going to go over it with a paintbrush and some leftover sauce just to smooth everything down so we have a really cool flush outer edge, so it's not lumpy or anything like that. But if you screwed up like I have done many a time before, whip up just a, now what's this? Maybe 1/3 of a cup of this. It really doesn't take much to smooth things down. I almost forgot that. Oh boy. Yeah. Well, it's fun when they're unscripted, but sometimes you have to throw in some scripted faux pas in there. And, I mean, who am I talking to? I never script any of this stuff, so just a matter of do it. Scripting can all be done in editing. glitch. A bot came through trying to sell me likes and subscribers. Asking me if I wanted to become famous. Oh dear Lord, that's exactly what I want. Famous, famous me. Sigh. Some people just don't get it. Very curious to see what becomes of my request to become a career in tech ed instructor. Oh. This guy maybe 2 more days or 2 more work sessions to get his outer covering on. Then he's going to need 2 more after that for ridges and sculpt. 1 more for the really fun stuff. Then maybe 3 days of painting. Just trying to see if I can get them done before school starts. Not that it's a huge problem. If I can't, I can't. There's always evenings and weekends. Oh, wow. I can't say I'm too shocked. I knew there would be a bunch of shutdowns with many schools, honestly, with the Delta variant. Zooming around. I am willing to bet a few of our schools will also have to worry about that. At least a few of the districts will shut down. Or at least we'll have some kids in quarantine. That's to be expected. I know of at least one staff member who has a relative living with them who is positive. That staff member is currently negative, and they are taking every precaution in the home to stay separate. Yeah, it depends on where you are. I heard an old friend of mine who's a special ed teacher out in the Wisconsin area. They practically had a mini riot at a teacher. Well, what is it? It's the Board of Education. At a Board of Education meeting because they were thinking about putting a mask mandate on, and the parents and residents threw such a fit that they they decided to get up and try to manhandle the board, which I find absolutely unconscionable, quite frankly. Wearing a mask is not that hard. It's not asking that much. It's like flushing after you go. You know, it's not the end of the world should somebody ask you to do that. Common courtesy. But to a certain extent, aspects of the general public in some areas are friggin' Dunning-Kruger theater, so, you know. Elementary schools are especially rough. Just because, well, obviously you guys know, if you've got a whole bunch of tiny kids, it is nearly impossible to keep them clean to an antibiotic level and to stop them from shoving their, you know, whatever's in their mouths and playing with stuff and, you know, Joey hit me, so I hit Joey back. You know, just, they don't have the social and emotional awareness. And you guys all know that. But makes any kind of containment at that level a near impossibility. That's all so innocent, you know. What were we doing? We were outside eating mud. Because the puddle in the side of the sandbox at recess looked like chocolate, and Johnny dared me to eat it, and I said I wouldn't. COVID. Strange rash. Pink eye, strap. Hey, Chris, how's it going? Yeah, that's a good one, Choo Choo. I can spit farther than you can. No, you can't. Yes, I can. But I can spit on Johnny. You can't spit on Johnny from here, Johnny. What? Ah! Oh, little kids. Just how they're built. That's why parents have to keep them safe. Hmm. Too true, Choo-Choo. Too true. All the crazy stuff that kids do at that age. I know, I did it. The power call, Chord Dragon. It calls to us. We must plays with it. I'm fortunate most of my cats ignore, well, I shouldn't say all of my cats ignore power cords. Unless they are being actively animated by me, and I am not keen to encourage that sort of thing. I'm not going to say a game of, oh my god, the extension cord is moving has never been played, but it's not a regularity. I made the mistake of working with my cats. I wanted them to jump up in bed and get pet before bedtime, or before, in the early morning before getting up. And so when they came up, or rather when I coaxed them up to get pet in bed, I gave them a treat. And so they took that to mean anytime I go up there and get pet, I'll get a treat. So, yeah. I am streaming on Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook Live. All at the same time. I don't like to leave bases uncovered. Markets untapped. So if you hear me talking to people who don't look like they have said anything here, I am talking to the Twitch audience. Oh god, yeah, Choo-Choo, that one. Mom, Dad, look what I found! Oh, that's nice. It looks like a dead salamander. With a parasitic worm in its throat. Oh, and you've been handling that with your bare hands. Oh. Yeah, no. You were not missing really part of it. It is just the fact that we have multiple streamers, or multiple people viewing on separate platforms. I could probably find a way to get that onto the screen, but I don't know if it's worth it to watch everybody's text. There is a company called Restream.io that does stuff like that. Yeah, Choo-Choo, I'm glad I've hit my age as well. I gotta say, my 30s were just the best time ever. 40s I'm not far into enough right now to have a great judgment call. They've been so good so far. So far, so good. I take it. Streaming's awesome as long as you got something to stream. The only game I have streamed has been a fun little board game called Wingspan, which I absolutely adore. Alright, almost out of clay. So we'll finish up around this eye, and then we'll talk to the camera about paper clay smoothing with sauce. And we'll take a little break. Let things dry, because at the moment, everything that's drying is clay. And you got to give clay like a bare minimum of 4 hours or so. And it's not hot and sunny enough right now for me to try to take things anywhere hotter. If I could have one piece of equipment, it would be a great big vacuum chamber. Juju, I don't play any games with controllers very heavily. Right now we're playing The Ascent, which you can play with a controller, but I prefer not to. Mouse and keyboard for the win. Time and motivation, Dragon. Time and motivation. Unless you're one of those magnificent crafters who is full of motivation that doesn't come in surges. It's one of my problems, I find. Gotcha, Choo-Choo. We're going to have most of the top of this pumpkin pretty well set here. I am actually surprised at the amount of area this amount of clay is covered. It's been nice. Excellent. Yeah, multiple projects are, I find with this, integral. You can always work on one while another one is drying. Time to talk to the camera about paper clay smoothing. Alright, I've added some paper clay to the project here and got that going. I am currently out of this batch of paper clay, so no more left. We're at a project breakpoint, and the last thing I want to do that I do now is do some smoothing on this paper clay. The old method always involved putting some sort of skin material on top of the pumpkins, usually a brown paper bag soaked in some paper mache fluid. These days I tend not to do that and rely on a smooth outer skin. But to get that, this stuff very up close is extremely lumpy bumpy. You can see how the light is catching it at that midline. There's a lot of rises, a lot of falls, and that's not how real pumpkins look, and it's just enough to throw off the illusion. So in order to tackle that problem, what we're going to do is a little bit of smoothing. I've got some leftover paper mache fluid. I'm just going to take my brush, get it good and saturated, and paint a bunch onto the project. What this is going to do is seep down into the outer layer of paper clay, make it a lot softer and a lot more pliable. And then we're going to run our brush over it. It's going to take all those lumps and it's going to smooth the living beschnauzes out of them. I'm not saying this is going to make it completely flat, but this is going to make it a lot flatter and a lot more well blended in. So this is the paper clay smoothing procedure. If you plan on using a skin, as I've done with older pumpkins in the past, then you do not need to do this. But if you want to go for a smooth outer coat and follow kind of the new methodology that I've been using, then this is an essential step. Unfortunately, this thing's a little bit unwieldy right now due to the uneven spacing of the clay. Watch the unwieldiness of your pumpkin due to the weight distribution of having the clay on it. Now you can glob on your fluid first, or you can paint it down as you go. In this last little bit, I was just mostly globbing fluid on, and now I'm going to use my brush to just paint down all these rough surfaces to make them a lot more uniform. The direction that you go with your painting really doesn't matter. We're just trying to take the rumply-bumply nature of the paper clay, not necessarily out of the equation, but minimize it.
The other thing that this will do is if you've got areas with joining lines that are really apparent, it will smooth those sections together and make joining lines go away. The final thing that you can do if you want to, if you really want a good smoothness, is just to, after that has been painted down, give your fingers just a little swish of fluid, rub it across the surface, and this will go extremely, extremely flat. If the surface is already very moist, then you can just take a finger and go over it, and this will really iron out any bumps that are in it. You might find that you get kind of a gooey clay and fluid mix that's really thin on your fingers. You can just wipe it on a section to get it off if you feel like it, or just keep on going, doesn't really matter. But I'll show you in a sec how smooth this is compared to before. Okay, here is the surface and how it takes on the light with the paper clay smoothing. Let's try not to ram it into anything else. But you should be able to see that that surface doesn't have anywhere near the rumbly bumblies that existed beforehand. It's pretty uniform. Do not go crazy trying to make it perfectly smooth. It will never match your expectations in that regard, but this gets it far, far smoother than it could be. And there are some paper clay recipes that will even take that to the next level. Last thing I always do is if I am breaking off a project point, if I have areas like this that are flat out and I know I'll be joining them with more paper clay later, I'm just going to smooth them down so there's a ramp on there. So I'm not going jagged end to jagged end. I can lay the new material on top of this and it will mesh right together with what was there before. Other than that, I'm going to let this guy dry and pick it up at this point later on. Oh, beep, beep, beep. Okay, cool. Not a big question. What did I whack while I was screwing around there? Cool. Ah, yeah. Paper clay smoothing. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Cool. Otherwise, that looks pretty good.
smooth down. I have a tiny bit of sauce left, which I can either let harden in the bowl or wash down the sink. It doesn't really matter. But I do have that. I don't want that caked on there. Yay. Hey, Cobwebs and Candlesticks. Sadly, I have just finished up my stuff for the day. I'm a couple batches of clay down and got the filming done. It's time to let all this stuff dry for a bit. And maybe think about some styrofoam projects. Sadly. I'm still gotta think about some styrofoam projects. And we'll do a tad bit of maintenance here. I think it's probably also time to fill this thing up with water right to the brim, so all this paper fluff on the top can come off. I don't want to leave this here to become something I have to worry about in the future. I also have to be careful because my my bathroom sink, which is up on this level of the house, has not been draining very well. I do not want to clog it with paper crap. That's a good solution, though. I've got some foam coat from Hotwire Foam Factory that I'd like to get some practice with. They sent it to me forever ago. I was going to review it and all that, but I kind of fell off the face of the earth. I still do have that project, though, and all the footage. I do still plan to finish it. So have I. Yep. The only conceivable problem that I think you could have with it is the cost, depending on, you know, what you were going for. Well, I'm an idiot. I should just splash some water in here. Hit the edges with it. So all it's got to do is loosen this crud up. That's easy enough when it's moist. Yeah, good. Some saturation. Do a little tool maintenance. Because God knows if you don't do tool maintenance, whoa. Stuff gets gunky. I mean, realistically, you got maybe an hour and a half of layering. Slapping a full outside coat on a pumpkin takes maybe 30 minutes, 40 minutes tops. Then you got sculpting, which that is very pumpkin dependent. Because I've done fancy carves before, which those can take quite a while. But assuming you're doing just a standard pumpkin face, maybe an hour 15-ish in sculpting. And then you got painting, base coat. I would say maybe 10 actual hours of work. And that reduces when you have multiple pumpkins. Because with any pumpkin, you're going to hit break-off spots, or you're going to hit time when you are out of materials for one, and you're either storing paper clay or you're storing the mache fluid, and then you run the risk of them going a little bit ratty. So if you do multiple pumpkins at a time, it actually cuts down on the whole of that, because you can just use up whatever else you got on the next project. And while one's drying, you can be working on it. And drying time is the biggest problem, quite frankly. If I could snap my fingers right now and all these things were suddenly dry, firm, and ready to go, I'd keep right on rocking. Because especially once I get to the sculpting, it's too much fun. Making the face, watching it come out, doing all the tiny little bits. But yeah, figure about 10 hours if you were to just, work through all the actual working time on one pumpkin. Maybe a bit less. And if you're going for strange paint jobs and kooky effects, maybe a bit more. When you get really good at it, you can probably knock about 2 hours off, because you'll have an idea of exactly where you want to go as soon as you start. Or you make those instant, middle of the road, I know where I'm going decisions, which preclude any kind of analysis paralysis of what you're doing. So do I. I really wish we had some sort of temporal chamber device I could put the stuff in. Like, how long do you want this to sit there and wait? All right, 48 hours. Poof! And it's dry. And especially for paint, I think. I can handle it a lot more with the paper clay, because I'll keep a couple pumpkins going at once. But if I'm painting, I have to do one section and then wait a little bit until I can flip it over and do the next section, because I can't do top and bottom at the same time and still hold it and not get paint or varnish or whatever all the hell over everything. So I really despise waiting for paint to dry. I do not really have the patience and impetus to make some sort of little paint drying chamber up in this room. Because I could probably build something into one of these windows that pipes air outside and all that. Well, I probably could. I mean, some folks who are out in the really hot, humid areas, Arizona, or not humid areas, but the hot, dry areas, Arizona, Nevada, take your pumpkin out, put it on the porch. The air's so dry, the sun's so hot, it's dry in minutes. Ah, yes, the witch hat pumpkin. Hattie the pumpkin. She comes out every Halloween. Yeah, ones like mine do cost quite a bit. But that's why I teach people to make them and do the tutorials, because quite frankly, yeah, you could pay a fortune for it, but this is a beach ball, newspaper, a $15 bag of fluff, drywall joint compound is like $5, $6. These materials are all really stupid cheap. All it is time. So that's why they cost so much too, incidentally. Yeah, if you've got humidity, then drying times suck. Right now we're at 98% humidity here in Norwich. I keep the upstairs air conditioner on just to knock some of the humidity on this floor to
give these guys some drying potential. And I got my fan on in here, which is always on in here, to help dry these guys out. Time is money, but time in hobbies is therapy, and that's money too. I have not Dragon Design just because I put a lot of time and effort into getting my teaching degree. I really do love teaching as well. And it has a wonderful retirement system and a wonderful insurance package. So pumpkins are a seasonal art form. You have to establish your base. It's yeah, it's grr. It's too much of a risk, suffice to say. Very, very much too much of a risk. If to do it, I would have to do a transition. I would have to make a whole bunch of stuff, take it to a local craft fair, take the profits, see about the profits. Yeah. I teach science. I am a certified biology teacher in the state of New York. And biology is my first love when it comes to the sciences. Followed very closely by chemistry. I absolutely adore chemistry as well. Most people assume I'm an art teacher, but no. And Choo Choo, I might consider doing it after retirement. That would be the time. Where I've already got long-term security in terms of cash and insurance, but before then, probably not so much. Yeah. I enjoy having a house and a car and all those things that regular jobs provide. Ooh, that's smarmy. Alright, let's see here. I do have a bucket I can dump that into, because I don't care if it dries out on the bottom of a bucket. I do kind of care if that dries out the bottom of my mixing thing. Yeah, there's really not all that much in there. Oh yeah, you can do this with all sorts of stuff. I have seen people do snow people with this technique. I myself have done it hybrid with 3D printing of masks to make a cool thing. Joni does gorgeous animals over on Ultimate Paper Mache. Sharon Ajala does like gnome houses and fairy houses. Yeah. Now, the form of what you do is inconsequential because the art media is so very, very, very versatile. Extremely versatile. If I like seagulls and hawks, I could probably do that with this media without any kind of worry. Nothing wrong with getting inspiration from other creators, Choo Choo. scratch this thing up too much, but I do want to make sure that any buildup of crud is checked. As far as I'm concerned, any clay that you can work with that doesn't crack and shrink and do all that stuff when it's air drying is fantastic. It's one of the reasons I love paper clay. For the most part, what you make while you're using it is the form it dries to. There's no distortion afterwards. Wonder if you can make it. Well, you know what? Nobody's good at sculpting. Everybody just starts and does stuff. My first pumpkin is a long way from my last or most recent creations. Everybody starts somewhere and moves. Nice. Yeah, people have done eagles, people have done dachshunds, all animals, all sorts of stuff. It's just an art media. You know, I do roots with the witch's there, the witchwood. It's just all about whatever you feel like doing. That water's gonna have to be changed because it's gross. Alright. Took down the gunk on the edges. Awesome. Yes, Juju. All art takes practice. So long as it doesn't feel like work while you're doing it, then you won. God, I love that thing. Alright, so drying. And tomorrow we're going to work on tombstone stones. Let's see if there's any new news about that stuff. Don messaged me. Alright, he'll be here this evening. Good. Oh, yeah, right. The whole point. Checking messages. No word, okay. No news is okay news. Excellent. And the stuff. What are we going to do? That's already a little damp, so I don't want to go in there. I may just let it dry there. That's the kind of stuff that'll make a hard bottom layer that won't be problematic. Let's get any cruddy crud off the sides though. If it'll dry solid and flake off, it's not a problem, but and the only reason I'm not just washing it out in the sink is that that upstairs sink is starting to clog, and I don't want to add paper bits to it to clog it more. And those will dry up. I can just pick them off, throw them in the trash. Good. All right. Well, everybody, thank you very much for hanging out with me while we do more craft making. I am going to go change this foul water out,
and let these guys dry, and hopefully we'll be at it again tomorrow, though with tombstone-y stuff. And thank you all. Have a good one. Catch you later. Let's go to the exit screen. Woo.